Yo, 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 yo. What up, everybody? We are kicking with the crew. Welcome back for another episode to come chill with us. I'm your host, DeMarco. Got my guy Trev with me.
What's up? What's
Just us
up?
two here tonight. Might get Damon on, but not too sure. But anyways, hope everybody's having a great weekend out there so far. Hope everybody got to check out the Los Angeles Chargers versus the Houston Texans game. I know Colts fans ain't gonna be too happy in here, but anyways, yeah. So how you doing tonight, Trev?
Chilling, man. Having a good week and everything. Everything was going well, and then I saw Houston win a playoff game, and I'm sure we won't hear the end of that for a while. So, but their end is coming next week. It's not the end of the world or anything. But yeah, we were just talking about before the show. I was shocked how Los Angeles just kind of shit the bed offensively. Just couldn't get anything going. Picks, turnovers, drops, all everything you could not ask for. They got it. So it was rough to watch.
Yeah, definitely. I think the thing that made it craziest about that game, it's not even necessarily the fact that Houston won that game, but I just think the fact that everybody thought that the Chargers would win that game because of the slide that Houston went on down the stretch,
Yeah.
and then the Chargers just couldn't find it. Like it was almost like they made it to the playoffs and you didn't know what their identity was. Like you were like, what kind of team is this? Like it was crazy. Like,
They didn't know either.
you could tell Houston wanted to play defense and run the ball, and kind of get CJ in the rhythm. The Chargers just looked like they just like it looked like week one. They just showed up and we're trying to figure it out. But
Lights were too bright, I guess.
yeah. So
But
let's get to the
if you're
the.
oh, go ahead, my
Go
bad.
ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if you're a Chargers fan, year one of Harbaugh era, McConkey's a beast. So it's not the end of the world, but that's a hell of a way to go out.
Yeah, definitely some stuff to be proud of, but it was far from the outcome that you thought you would get.
Made it further than us, so I
But
can't
hey,
really talk
but
shit.
hey, yeah, I was just about to say, three teams made it from that division into the playoffs, so you got to be
Yep.
proud of yourself for that. But yeah, anyways, let's jump into the team while we're here. The horseshoe. We also got the win week 18. I know a lot of people weren't necessarily I mean, I don't know if many were. I think it was kind of split. Some people was hoping we'd lose the draft position. Um, some, just over the whole Ballard thing. I guess I can't really say because I wasn't engaging which side too much this week people were on. But I was pretty much on the side of, hey, just get the win. Don't end the season with the loss. It's already been a shitty season. Don't make it worse. So we ended up getting the win over the Jacksonville Jaguar. It had to be in overtime. We just had to go into overtime and just
ourselves.
make the season to that point what it was anymore. Just kind of watch that game. Ended up being 26-23 in overtime.
Yeah, man. I mean, honestly, this past week alone has been so crazy that I almost forgot we played last week. Like it feels like it was so much longer ago, just with all the news that's come out of the team. But yeah, finished the season. I can't really say strong, but finished with a win, and that's what we want from the team. A little bit of antics after the game, whatever. But got a win. Finish 8-9. Hopefully on to better things.
Yeah, for sure. Got my guy, Colts fan Antoine in here. Said, I miss y'all boys. Glad y'all still doing this. Hey, man, look, I'm going to be a diehard fan regardless. I'm going to be upset or be happy, nowhere, whatever. Yeah. My emotions going to rock with it. But you had a post actually on Twitter, X. And you said, what would happen if, the Colts, what was it? I think you said you asked if they kept Ballard and everybody else and didn't really do much to change. And I said, I still sit here with my clown mask on, cheering on this team.
I'm not going to have a good time.
But... I mean, like, it is what it is, man. Life goes on. I'm going to still be a fan, and I chose Buck just because of, what he represents and how he came out. So yeah, like I said, I retweeted your post just because, a lot of fans could be upset. Some say they won't watch or can't watch or whatever. But me personally, I'm gonna just sit here and just, kind of just take the heat that comes with the team. Look at some Browns fans and Detroit Lions fans. They sat through it for a while. Just kind of is what it is. Your time comes and goes.
And I get it. I understand the frustrated fans. I'm frustrated too. I think most of the fan base is frustrated with how things have gone. But like you said, no matter what, I'm still rocking on here. I'm still gonna watch the Colts. Like, I'm gonna be frustrated sometimes. I'm gonna be annoyed with the shit, but I don't know how to pull for another team.
Frustrated most of the time. Yeah. Oh, my bad. Didn't get to that one. Joshua Merchant, what's up, Josh? Good to hear from you. Hey, fellas, love your show. Love tuning in every week. I'm glad we win. Anytime we win is a good day. Absolutely.
Facts.
Unless we were the New York Giants, because their fans are pissed that they won the game versus us and lost their number one overall pick.
Well, and just as far as winning too, because I know some people were upset about the draft position. It really didn't move us much. We went from like 12th to now we're sitting at 14th where we're locked in at.
No, I think we end up staying at 14. I think we
are staying at 14.
12.
Yeah, gave up the opportunity to get to 12. Either way, I mean, this is 2 picks, and a lot of the teams picking around us don't have the same needs anyway. I don't think it matters too much. I'd rather beat the Jaguars than have 2 spots, honestly. So it wasn't super drastic to me.
Yeah. I didn't want it to be embarrassing that we had to lose to another team that was pretty much fighting for draft position anyway.
Trying to lose football games.
Exactly. Actually, we need to get in that a little bit. We'll get. I'm just going to read off these 2 comments here. We got a Colts fan, Antoine, saying retain Ballard. He has to be more aggressive this offseason with getting good coaches.
Committed players. I think it's a
I'm
typo.
not sure. Yeah, I think you might have put out something and it just ain't showing up right for us here. Committed players. So yeah, we definitely gonna jump all into that as well. I just wanted to get into this Jags game a little bit because I know it's probably gonna be a lot of discussions about Ballard and everything. I know you guys are about to come to that one because I know that's the biggest piece of all of this because most of us wanted him gone, but he is not. But yeah, just real quick. So how did you feel about the game? I know it didn't really matter too much, Trib, but what you've seen throughout the game, us going to overtime, getting a win, anything to comment there and whatnot.
I mean, honestly, it just felt kind of fitting for the team that this was this season, that it had to go to overtime, that it was kind of back and forth against a team that we should be much better than. So I'm not gonna lie, like I had the game on, but I knew I'd be frustrated if I just sat and watched it. So I kind of moved throughout, did my chores and stuff, and I glanced over at the game, see what's going on. So I might have missed some plays and everything, but yeah, it just felt kind of typical of this season's team, and I guess it was kind of fitting that it ended like that. Again, I'm glad we got the win because to hell with Jacksonville, but yeah, it was just like, well, that sounds about right for us.
Yeah, most definitely, man. I was just, I can't really say I was watching the game with like emotions of a football game as if I normally do.
I was gone.
Watching games, being excited about plays, looking at what we did. Like I was just watching the Houston Texans and the Chargers game, and even when Stroud, they fumbled the ball, he runs out the pocket and throws over the middle of the field. I'm like, okay, Stroud's coming. I get hyped up about seeing football plays. I'm a football fan first, but plays that were made in that game to me, it kind of was just like, okay, I just wanted us to get the win and pretty much walk away. Yeah. And at one point I ended up tweeting out during that game just because of the way it was going and how we were going back and forth. I tweeted, I'm watching this game and I don't realize which team is tanking. Like that's how I felt watching the Colts play Jaguars in Week 18. So on one side, it's the NFL. It's hard to win. Sure. On the other side, this has just been the efforts of our season, the way it's gone pretty much. It's kind of just like, this is what we do. We are not a good team that beats up on bad teams. We are just a mid team that will give anybody their great day. So,
yeah.
So I was just glad we came out to win. That's pretty much all I got to say about it because, it didn't really hurt or do any good for us or anything like that. But, let's just go ahead and get right to what everybody wants to discuss. Not going to lie to you guys. All 5 members of this show, I don't like to speak for anybody, but I can tell you guys all this factually. We all wanted Chris Ballard gone to end the season. Yep. He has been retained along with Shane Steichen as the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts and the GM of the Indianapolis Colts. And Gus Bradley, the defensive coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts, is the one has been fired. So some call it a scapegoat. Others will say it's not a scapegoat because he was supposed to. It needed to happen regardless. Oh, Derrick Henry with a mean stiff arm on Mika Fitzpatrick. Oh my goodness!
What a run!
It was just something that needed to happen. Dude needed to go. And, you know, whether Ballard needed to go is neither here nor there, but we had to make some kind of change. But I can tell you now, whether Ballard went or did not, I think defensive coordinator needed to be changed.
Yeah, no matter
so we can go ahead and start there. Why don't you start us or get into that a little bit, Trev? Gus Bradley has pretty much been bottom half of the league, or not even bottom half of the league. Bottom, I want to say
bottom 10.
It's been bottom 5 the 2 years he's been here, and then I think it was we got up to like 24 this year in scoring defense. And then it's been bottom 5 in yards per game. So what's your thoughts on Gus Bradley getting the can?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, just the way that we received the news after the game and so on, it was kind of just a roller coaster of emotions because the first thing Jim Irsay puts out is how he's retaining Chris Ballard and Steichen and how fans will be disappointed. And it just felt like a gut punch. All of us kind of reacted the same way where it's like, what are we doing? What the fuck? Like, there's no way we run it back. So that was kind of a lower point. And then I want to say the next day or pretty quickly, we find out, you know, Gus Bradley was relieved of his duties. Now the search for a new defensive coordinator begins. So just as far as that goes, fans calling it a scapegoat or whatever, like you were just saying, whether it's a scapegoat or not, I don't give a damn. The guy could not go into next year with that job. Like, call it a scapegoat. That's fine. He needed to be replaced no matter what happened with the GM, no matter what happened with head coach. We need a new defensive coordinator. So Gus being fired made absolute sense, and we've all been calling for it for a while. Now, what's interesting, too, and we'll talk more about Ballard's presser later, but one thing he did mention there was how this is going to be a Steichen hire. He's going to be involved in the process, but Shane Steichen is going to be the main voice in picking that defensive coordinator. And I like that a lot. Obviously, Shane kind of inherited Gus as
touchdown Ravens.
That's a great ball from Lamar. Obviously, Shane kind of inherited Gus. And, you know, they tried to make it work, but this will be interesting to see how the coaching staff plays out with Shane Steichen having everyone he would want on his staff in that building. So I think that's the right move going forward. I'm anxious to see who it'll be, but yeah, there's a move that had to happen, and I'm just glad that this one did.
We're going to get into some more stuff here about Chris Ballard and stuff like that. I'm going to comment on DC, but I just want to throw this out there to all fans who are watching, just because we're talking about coaching staff and stuff like that. Why don't you guys go ahead and give me some of your comments and feelings on Coach Mason, our special teams coordinator, because our special teams has took a huge dip as well ever since Bubba has left us for Cleveland. So why don't you guys give me some comments on you guys' special teams, the special teams coach, and how we've been looking there. Just want to get some comments on that because that hasn't been spoken about too much.
That's a good point.
But yeah, so with the Gus firing, just like Trev said, I truly thought this was like we weren't going to do anything. I thought it was going to be complete run it back. But I did have a feeling, after Shane did his press conference and they said that you believed in Gus and he's been around it for a long time and whatnot. I personally don't see why Colts fans watch Shane Steichen's pressers and think anything into it because he's lying. He's factually, I'm telling you guys right now, he says absolutely
he won't reveal anything.
Nothing in those pressers. It's all repeated garbage. You got to wait to see what he does after that presser to know anything he says is just been absolutely garbage. So after he said that we're going to look into everything and stuff like that, somebody tweeted out and said, wow, they're just going to look into everything. And I retweeted what they said. And I said, he said the same thing about Anthony Richardson. When he said, is Anthony Richardson your starting quarterback? He didn't give an answer. And he said, we are going to look into everything.
Evaluate.
And then AR was benched. I would like to say the same day, but I think it might be the next day. So don't quote me on that one.
After,
But it was pretty shortly after that happened. So I felt, I said, let's wait a second and see what happens. And then boom, next day, Gus Bradley is gone. He's out of there after some conversations they were supposed to have. And so to all Colts fans out there, I was absolutely pissed that Ballard was retained, but I was not surprised, especially since Jim Irsay put it out there so quickly. It was.
Yeah,
I don't think it was before. Like I watched the end of the game. I think I got up, went to my room real quick, came back, looked at my phone.
Very quickly. Yeah,
boom, and it was already tweeted out that Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard would be staying. So again, not total surprise because I didn't think that much would change anyway. But I was happy that we get a change with Gus because we've been pretty much living in the same defense for the last
years, dude.
How long we have Eberflus? I think it was.
I want to say he left in 21.
I want to say it was
21, 22.
So I think that was 4 years with Eberflus, I believe. 4 years with Eberflus, 3 with Gus. Yeah. So same defense for pretty much around 6 or 7 years. And it's time for a change. So I'm really hoping that we do get a philosophy change and it does not be the same thing.
Yeah. This defense worked when you had a guy like Shaq Leonard running around forcing turnovers.
Exactly.
We don't have that guy anymore. So it does not work, especially when you're as bad of a tackling team as we were. It was more than time for a change.
That's especially for all the people who wants Eberflus back.
It's going to be more of the same. That he benefited from Shaq Leonard being a menace, forcing turnovers, and then obviously other guys as well making good plays and everything. But yeah, it was mainly the fact that Leonard and that defense as a whole during that time was really good at forcing turnovers, and we haven't had that since. So it's that philosophy does not work without that.
Absolutely not. And so let's just get to our overall feeling because Chris here is saying here, what's good, fellas? How are we feeling about Chris Ballard's presser? Let's go ahead and get into a little bit of we'll talk about the whole presser first, and then I got pretty much everything I sent to you guys while I was watching there. And then we can get into kind of like some bullet points of each part that kind of came up. I'll start us off if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So to start us off, man, I was expecting, just like pretty much everybody else, to hear the same garbage rhetoric. We like our guys. It's tough to win in this league.
Look.
The guys are young. We had a lot of injuries. All the other bull crap and excuses. Chris Ballard opens up by pretty much saying he hears us as fans. He hears everything that's been going on, what's been said. We're not winning. And he said he's got to own it. And he sat there for an hour.
Yeah.
An hour. And basically just smeared shit in his own face to say, I got it wrong.
Yeah.
I got it wrong. And so I will say overall from how I felt about his presser, it took me from here as a Colts fan to about here.
Yeah.
You guys can see the level that raised there. And that's really a big thing. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Like truly, that is a big thing because of the fact that, we've been hearing words. And if you guys are the type of people out there where you say, words don't mean shit, I want to see actions. That's a big thing from him to finally take that smug arrogance that he had about his players, his drafting and all that other stuff, and to really put some blame on himself and say, we got it wrong. I appreciated that. But now I'm just looking forward to free agency. That's coming up first in March and then the draft. And I want to see if he will actually put those words into action. So overall, I did feel very much good about what he said.
Yeah. I sat through on my drive home from work the other day, listened to the whole thing. I felt very similar. Like I said earlier, the initial reaction to just saying that we were keeping Ballard was like a gut punch. It was like, what are we doing with this team? I was extremely disappointed. And then I will say after listening to that presser in its entirety, again, it's just words, it's just talking, but it did make me feel overall better about the direction of the team and about the fact that we ended up keeping him. Again, that was not a move I would have made. I would have fired Ballard. I would have brought in a new GM, new perspective. But with the answers he gave and the fact that he was willing to sit there and credit to the reporters too, they gave some really tough questions to the guy. No softballs. Like you could tell there was some frustration with the media as well. But he sat there. He gave a lot of good answers. A lot of stuff that we as fans have been saying too. So yeah, after that presser, ultimately, I felt okay about it. Again, wouldn't have kept Ballard, but if we're going to keep Ballard, the things that he said sounded like what we need to hear from him. He sounded like he was going to be more aggressive in bringing in change, bringing in competition, admitting that he's got it wrong. It was interesting too. I know we'll get in some bullet points and stuff, but he mentioned too, where I think it was just last week we were talking about if you had to pinpoint a spot that this franchise went wrong, it was after the 21 season when we kicked Carson Wentz to the curb. And he specifically brought up that 21 season because he said, we had a good team then, and I felt like we were close, so we ran it back and ran it back and ran it back. And he said that's around the time that he started getting so stubborn about keeping his guys, paying his guys. So it's funny that he notes as well that's around the time where things went wrong for this franchise. So him being able to see all this is encouraging, and hopefully, given what he said, given what he's owned up to, which I appreciate just as a man, hopefully we just see a different change or a different approach to free agency in the draft than he's had in previous years. Hopefully it's more aggressive and just, brings in competition, like he said.
Absolutely. Dave is going back here for us. He said it was so typical. The season was such a disappointment, and the last game had to go to OT. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. And to Trev's point, like he said, bringing those guys back and stuff like that, he thought he mentioned a lot of different things that I can't wait to get into, just because it was such a different tone. Dave Stewart also says here, Gus was easy because his contract was done. I want to say yes and no, just because, just my opinion, Dave. I don't have any real answers and whatnot. I just think even if he would have had a year or two on his deal, I think Gus would have been gone to the point because of the fact that how many points we started giving up towards the end of the year. I believe we gave up 31 to Tennessee.
Yep.
45 to New York, and then gave up another 23 to Jacksonville, who was pretty much trying to lose. So
and he hadn't been good before that either. So
exactly. So I just that's just what I personally think. Not just the contract. So I do think he would have got fired either way.
Agreed.
Dave said here, it's funny Frank inherited Flus and Shane got Bradley. It's so good. It's so good Shane can pick now. Yeah, definitely. This is what I've been saying for a while. I even thought that if Ballard was fired as the GM, I felt it should have been Shane to pick his own GM and pick his own DC. I know a lot of people came at me for that because they said, what has Shane done to earn that kind of power, blah, 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 all that shit. I don't think when I say that, I'm not saying Shane has any type of power, and it's not even like Shane can go walk in and fire his GM. It's basically saying, who do I want to hire as my boss to get me guys? And then he would even still be doing those interviews with Jim, with Carly, with whoever is helping the Colts make their picks and stuff. I just wanted somebody who has a similar vision to what Shane is seeing that he wants his team to be. So
yeah, it's not even a question of earn it or not. And I can agree too. Shane Steichen has not earned that kind of, Bill Belichick role or whatever. Obviously, We're not that level. But it's not a question of earn. It's a question of getting the entire staff, the entire front office, coaching staff on the same page with the same vision. What we just had is a GM from 2017, a coach from the last couple years, and a defensive coordinator from Frank Reich. So it's all these different visions of this team, all these different versions of this team, all trying to make it work together. That very rarely works. It's so much easier, even if the guy hasn't earned it, to say, you're the head coach or you're the GM, whichever way you decide to go. This team is your vision. You represent this team. How do you want to go about this? So it was not a question of earned. The reason, DeMarco, you were allowed, and I kind of agreed with it as well, is the fact that you have to have one vision on the coaching staff and on the team as a whole. And if you're going to say a guy's a head coach and representing the team, it makes sense to go with that vision. So, yeah, I fully agree with what we're doing now with defensive coordinator, letting Shane make that hire.
Completely. It's also something that you want to have aligned in your building. I think somebody actually tweeted out and made a joke about that as well, or I don't know if it was really a joke, but kind of just laughing at ourselves because Shane in the season said we're close, and Ballard got into his presser and said we're not close at all. So they said this is wonderful alignment by the Colts, but I think you're just hearing the different perspective of what close means. I think Shane is saying as a coach, we were 2 games away from making the playoffs.
Which is true.
And Ballard is saying here, we're not close because I've been doing the same shit for years and we're clearly not fucking close. And he even mentioned, you lose the Super Bowl, you're close. So now he's starting to realize what the actual goal is. And I might need to go back to see what his year one presser was when he came in to, try and re-see what his vision was. But I know most of his vision was built upon, getting Andrew Luck healthy and building around him. So hopefully Ballard goes in with a fresh mindset of what he was building. And obviously quarterback still has a lot of questions and stuff like that. But I think he needs to remember to a point. He said it multiple times that competition needs to be the thing. So hopefully he gets back to that and starts rebuilding this entire roster to get it where it needs to be, not just one position.
I thought that was fair based on their perspective too, just talking about the team being close. Like Shane has only been here 2 years. It's fair for him to feel like the team is close because he went 9-8, 8-9. Like as you said, as a coach,
right there,
he is close to being a winning team. I think the reason Ballard disagreed is he's been here the whole time. He's seen pretty good teams, that 2020 team.
And 2 playoff teams.
Yeah, he's seen good teams here, and now he sees what the team is right now. So that's why it's easy for him to say we're not close because we're not even close to those teams, and those teams weren't close to a Super Bowl. So it's fair on both sides, I think.
Absolutely. Joshua Mercer said, I believe we fired our linebackers coach and another coach as well. Yeah, pretty much every coach has been fired or relieved of their duties outside of the D-line coach that we hired last year. I don't know if he will be retained. I would guess that Shane would make his hire and let his DC choose his own D-line coach. Yeah. But, we'll see how that kind of goes.
Yeah, that was actually mentioned in the presser as well. That's pretty much what Ballard said, is that'll be up to the new defensive coordinator and Shane, who will fill out the staff. As of right now, the guys we had last year are there, but it's kind of well known that they're not going to be. So, yeah,
I'm fine with it. Everybody on that goddamn defense stunk. So, they can go. Nathan is jumping in here to some draft stuff. Tyler Warren at 14 is a lock. I hope so, brother. I hope so. Let's get him in there. Chris Ballard did say that it was, or Dave Stewart is saying here, Chris Ballard did say it was a mistake at keeping their own, that it caused complacency. So we will see if his word is true and dives into free agency. Absolutely. And I want to just throw in another one in there. One of our first bullet points that I had in here about our presser. Ballard said A needs competition because he cannot complete an entire season. He hasn't been able to play 17 games, so he said he needs to bring in competition there. Me personally, I don't believe AR needs competition. I really could care less about it. It's not necessarily about me loving AR or thinking he's the guy or anything. I don't care if we stink at quarterback no more. I don't. We clearly, I don't want to say we messed up with the pick of AR. I was the guy who said he should stay another year at college, so we probably would have never even took a quarterback if he wasn't there. But to me, there's just so many holes on this roster, dude. Many holes in this roster. And I just don't want to waste any more picks or free agency money on a quarterback. I really don't. We're not like everybody has said, we're not close to being a Super Bowl team. So why do we keep wanting to try and, build these picks and put them there and stuff like that, or waste money in free agency? It's kind of like the Jets when they thought they could bring in Aaron Rodgers and they were a Super Bowl team away. That roster was very good. They're just dysfunctional. Offensive line with just so many issues that they didn't figure out.
Get it wrong, dude.
Yeah, and their defense was great the year before, but it's like you're doing a terrible job if you think your team is going to play the way they did last year.
Yeah,
a GM, a coach, your people should not be thinking that way. And I took that from Joe Flacco. Anytime you think you're close or you think you could have done something, you need to do something to try and get better. Where are you improving? So
it's going to be a new team every year too, no matter how many guys you bring back.
Exactly. So I would love to see competition and like Dave said, I want to see free agency on this roster. Me and Trev actually were just talking about this earlier in the chat, and it's like we hear these words from Chris Ballard, right? And so a lot of people are going to expect change. I think we got, off the top of my head, I want to say about 8 to 12 guys that were regular starters or players on this team that will not be back this upcoming season. And Trev had said, I don't expect him to go out, and like he said in the presser as well, he said he's not going to mortgage the Colts' whole future in cash and cap space and stuff like that just to save his own ass. But he will, be more thorough to make the change. So that's what we'll see. And my response to Trev was, oh, yeah, I expect him. I don't expect a a dog doesn't change itself overnight. You know, it doesn't change its ways. But I would expect the secondary to look different next year. I think if me personally, if I'm the GM, the only starter that for sure is going to be in the same place will be Nick Cross.
Yeah.
Everybody else would have competition. And Kenny Moore, my bad. I mean, Kenny Moore, but
I'd still bring in another nickel.
I was about to say, if you bring in another nickel as competition as well, bring in competition for that. But outside of Nick Cross and Kenny Moore, everywhere in the secondary would be competition. Defensive line, I don't know if he would go free agency there because we spent a lot of draft capital. I don't know if we will draft capital there to go at defensive end as well. But I'm definitely adding some competition there. You get Samson Ebba come back there as well. And then tight end. That tight end, if I was the motherfucking GM, I'm telling you right now,
not a single tight end.
You probably wouldn't know a name in that tight end room. Nope. Outside of some free agents. So
I'm cutting everybody and building that.
So Dave, to your point, I'm hoping we see the change. If I was, the GM, or if I was Chris Ballard looking to make up for how Colts fans feels, those would be the two immediate areas I would start, and I guarantee you he would fix a lot of ways for Colts fans.
Yeah,
I do. And I personally, I'm not too into the AR thing. I mean, if they want to bring in competition, it's whatever. I just wouldn't waste it personally.
Yeah, I want to circle back to that. I disagree a little bit. I agree not drafting a quarterback 100%. I do not want to draft a guy. I would sign a competent or somewhat competent quarterback in free agency, just because, like, you have to put him.
Would you sign Justin Fields?
I would not sign Justin Fields. That would not be the move I'd make.
I just threw that one in there because everybody was saying.
Yeah, so just looking through, I sent a couple names to the chat. I'm trying to remember them right now. But upcoming free agents, Sam Darnold's the biggest name. We're not going to get Sam Darnold. He's going to go back to Minnesota, or a team is going to massively overpay him, which is fair given the year he's had, right? So he's not coming to the Colts. I feel the same about Kirk Cousins. I know that's a name people have been throwing around. We don't need that either. What I would do is get a guy who has been in that backup role for a while and knows kind of how to be that backup, but has also shown moments of competence. So I'm looking at quarterbacks like Cooper Rush, like Drew Lock, and even like Zach Wilson because he's got a big arm. I would look to see if I could get one of those guys on a cheap deal just to bring in as kind of a body to compete with Anthony Richardson. We all know none of those guys are going to be starters, but worst case scenario, if Anthony's balling and he has to miss a game or two because of an injury, you can expect that guy to kind of manage a game, whatever. So that's fine. And then on the flip side, they might be just good enough that iron sharpens iron a little bit, and they can help Richardson with some of the pro routine stuff, kind of like Joe Flacco was said to have done this year. So for that reason, I would bring somebody in, but it's like I said, someone in that kind of caliber of players. I would not make a big deal. I would not trade for anyone. I would not draft anyone. But one of these kind of mid-tier guys, or Josh Dobbs even was a name I saw that I wouldn't be angry about getting. If you can get a guy on a cheap 1 or 2 year deal to bring in as a mentor / camp body, I'm not against that at all. Iron sharpens iron, send it. As far as the other stuff you talked about, secondary, yeah, I'm bringing in everybody, dude. That's where I would want to throw the most money at as far as free agency goes. Draft picks as well. I think we need to draft guys. I'm keeping Jalen Jones and Sam Womack, but they should not be my starters.
I want to break your train of thought, but I just meant to add in there, the only reason I meant to say new names as far as the secondary goes is because I want competition. Yeah. I'm tired of our top guys being, 5th, 6th, 7th round picks, either that we never see after we drafted them, or guys that are just, name starters without the major competition. Juju Brents is obviously a 2nd round pick, but he can't stay healthy. I need some real talent there.
Yeah, and I mean that's a shame. Like I've been a fan of Brent since I watched him at Kansas State. That's one of the few picks that I've called for the Colts. I was super proud of it, and then he's barely played. So it's as much as I'm a fan
came back and got hurt in the first quarter.
Yeah, as much as I'm a fan of the guy, or I want to be a fan of the guy, he can't stay on the field. So it's irresponsible to say, well, we got this guy early. He's shown a little bit of talent. We can believe in him. No, dude, I don't believe at all. I don't believe in anyone back there right now. So. Yeah, I'm drafting guys. I'm signing guys. That secondary should look completely different. D-line, I do think having Ebicom come back makes a big difference for us. That guy's a difference maker for sure. I think Latu coming into his own will also be super helpful. So I would add a guy on the D-line, But I wouldn't go as crazy as I would in the secondary there. Like still bring someone in, make a move, whatever. But I'm not as worried about the D-line.
I would say
I think part
unless
of
we
that
had a
was
chance
coverage
at
too.
Abdul Carter. Unless we had a chance at
That's
Abdul
different.
Carter.
That's different. That guy's a game record, so that is different. Yeah, I mean, if the talent warrants the pick, then absolutely you take the guy, or free agent, what have you. But yeah, secondary is definitely absolutely the biggest concern as a group. And then tight end, just we've said 100 times on the show lately, cut everyone in that room and just draft a guy and sign 2 more, call it a day. That's what I would do.
Absolutely. Nathan saying here what I took from Chris Ballard's press conference. He's sick of AR shit. So yeah, I'm gonna jump into a few of these bullet points, and we'll kind of go through them as we go here. Nathan also says I don't think Richardson will be a starter next season. So Ballard said AR needs competition. I already mentioned that one actually. Free agents will be looked at because his guys failed. Ballard decided to go all in back in with his group. He said he absolutely emphatically failed the team, Shane as a coach, and just bringing in those guys back. Like Trev said earlier, they got complacent. And I think Dave or somebody else might have said that as well in the comments. Apologize if I didn't mention you. He got it wrong bringing his guys back. He also brought up how Pat McAfee criticized the team, him and the team. He said he did not agree with everything he said, but he said there's absolutely some facts to it. So he brought that up as well. So just so you guys know, Ballard is definitely listening and hearing everything that we're saying. Wish he could have jumped on this a little bit sooner, like we all mentioned that last year. But again, I don't want to say anybody is perfect. We're all fans here. We can't act like we could have really done a better job, even though we may think we would have been able to, because some situations might have been pretty easy. But I think at the end of the day, depending on how long it takes you as a person to look in the mirror and say you need to make that change, I think we should be able to appreciate that as a human to say, when you're stubborn, to say I fucked up. I can appreciate that from him. What is it? He said he was grateful for Jim Irsay giving him another opportunity to come back, because I'm pretty sure Ballard thought he was done as well. One of the writers said, what was Jim Irsay's words to you about this season and the mess that's pretty much is going on for the last 6 years or so? And Irsay's words were, fix it.
Yeah, facts.
To Nathan, I don't necessarily know if he's like sick of AR stuff, but I think what it is or no, that's what you took from it. So my apologies. I don't mean to say that's wrong or anything. But just adding some little tidbits there, I should say. I think he's just sick of the like what he put out there as a product and feeling like it was enough and them not getting it done. I think he's tired of people failing. So as much as he's saying he's failed, he knows he's saying a lot of people have failed him. Guess I should have just added that in there because everybody's entitled to their own opinion. As far as the AR being the starter next season, again, you're entitled to your own opinion. I just don't think this is the case. I think we need to sink or swim with AR being the guy regardless, whether he gets us up to the top or it sinks us to another quarterback. I think you just gotta, let that guy figure it out and make it work. Ballard also mentioned that in his presser that they don't need to hold guys' hands anymore. Yeah. Anthony Richardson was shown how to be a leader, or he needs to learn how to do that on his own. Like you were drafted as a top pick to be that guy, and you need to figure it out. You got to learn to stay healthy. Ballard mentioned that as well. That's on AR. We're not going to hold your hand, man. So, you got to earn being a guy. It's your job to do that. So,
yeah, I really felt like Ballard's comments specifically about AR were stern but fair. He didn't really say anything that was out of pocket to me. He talked about his inability to stay healthy. We've seen it. It's true. Unfortunately, it has been a fact so far. And then he talked about the benching and the maturity process. And I mean, he kind of handled it like anyone would. He kind of made a reference to I don't remember which reporter asked the question, but he said, "Do you have kids?" It's kind of like having kids, where they make a mistake and you expect them to do something and they don't do it. Kind of along that line. And he was like, "Listen, this is still a young man, a grown man, but a young man, right? So He didn't go too hard on him about that. I thought really just everything he said, like I said, stern but fair. And just as far as believing in Richardson, I mean, he took the guy 4th overall. If that doesn't tell you how much he believes in the guy, that actions speak louder than words. He doesn't have to sit up there and kiss his ass. He took him 4th overall, and he started him from day one because he believes in the guy. Now, he did say he kind of wished that he would have sat him and let him learn a little bit, and that he probably
would have sat him longer for the second time as well.
Yes, but even then, like, he took ownership of that, and Shane did as well, where it was like that's not Richardson's fault. We kind of threw him in too early, and he kind of sank before he swam, and so on and so forth. But yeah, everything you said about Richardson, I felt like was extremely fair to the guy, and then bringing in competition is not a sign that he doesn't believe in him anymore, that he's not the starter anymore. It's just that, like I was saying earlier, iron sharpens iron, and that's what the team as a whole needs is more competition, so guys don't get complacent. So yeah, I actually really liked what he had to say about Richardson.
Yeah, and I think it's also fair to just sit there and point out, hey, a pro is supposed to be a pro. When you do your job, whatever you guys out there you do for work, when you go home, it's your job to go out there and get better at your job. And it's nobody else's job to hold your hand and get better. Like, maybe they can offer you some training, send you to different places and stuff and offer different things. But at the end of the day, it's your job to go out there and get better. And so, yeah, I thought it was totally fair. We got Paul Nelson here. How are you guys? I'm doing well. I hope you're doing well. Hope you're good. Hope your family's good and healthy if you do have a family and kids and stuff like that. What's your take on defensive coordinator and who should we focus on? I'm thinking Wink out of Michigan. I'm currently trying to find my list right now, so I lost it a little bit. My memory is terrible, so I can't really remember names too much. But the Colts have chosen and decided to interview who was it? Lou Anarumo out of Cincinnati, the former Cincinnati Bengals defensive coordinator, a guy for the Cleveland Browns. I'm not going to try and say that name without having it in front of me right now because I will butcher the hell out of it.
Rough one.
He's the DB's coach over there. And then I believe, if I remember correctly, Dennis Allen's name was on that list.
It was in the
room. I'm not sure if we have interviewed him or not yet, but I know has been some rumors about Wink out of Michigan. What's your thought on that, Trev? Or anybody?
There was talk about Wink. I know Zach was pretty in favor of the move, or I don't know if he was being serious or not, but I know he talked about Wink Martindale. People even talked about Rex Ryan, although I think he's more likely to get a head coaching job with how the Jets sound. Look, I mean, there's a lot of names that have been thrown out there. Ultimately, I'm not necessarily against anyone except for bringing back Eberflus, because as we said earlier, that I just don't see that working. And as far as personnel groups and the scheme overall, I'm mostly okay with running a very similar scheme as we already do. It just has to be ran in a different way, if that makes sense. It has to be more aggressive. It has to have more motion. But I'm not against running a largely cover 2 based, 4-man down scheme. A lot of teams run 4-man down teams schemes like that. So that's not necessarily an issue, although you have to be more aggressive. And that's actually something that Ballard talked about as well, is just with who he's looking at for defensive coordinator. He made it a point to say you have to be aggressive. You have to affect the quarterback. So I do think whoever we bring in is going to be someone who's willing to blitz a little bit more, maybe willing to put 5-man down here and there, but just get after the quarterback a little bit more than we have the last couple of years. So that'll be interesting. But right now, I don't really have any names that I'm honed in on. Again, I'm cool with whoever can get that job done.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm having a tough time finding it right here at this second. But I had a few, man. I had Lou Anarumo on there as a guy that I would like. I had the DC out of Oregon. I had I like Dennis Allen. I know a lot of people have mentioned him, but I question because of how much talent he had on the teams that he had. If you go back and look at some of the rosters he had in New Orleans, their GM, I believe, will be a Hall of Famer once it's his time to get in. I just think there was so much talent on the defense. I don't know how much I trust in Dennis Allen with us hoping that Ballard will change, and kind of bringing that talent and stuff like that. But I don't know how much he's going to be able to, get that talent and whatnot. But yeah, I just actually just found my list here. Um, I had I did have Rex Ryan on there as one of the guys that I like to see. Brian Flores, Robert Saleh, Lou Anarumo, Jim Leonard. So that's the Broncos DB coach. I think guy is nice with defensive backs. I mentioned Tosh Lupoy. That's Oregon's DB coach, who I meant, not defensive coordinator.
You're big on him,
yeah, and then I also I like Tosh because he's young, young and up and coming coordinator. Want a guy that's hungry. And he's been around a few places. Also been in Alabama with Nick Saban and those guys. So those guys produce.
Not a bad tree to fall from. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then I had Joe Cullen on there, the Chiefs D line coach. So those were a few names that I had. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm a tactician as far as knowing what every guy specializes in and stuff like that, but just some names and some stuff that I've seen from guys that I like and can pull up, and guys that I think that could make a huge difference. And I know a lot of people are out on Lou Anarumo, but I just think that the way he game plans specifically for teams, I really like, even though his numbers don't always say it.
Yeah.
And then the Bengals did not do him any favors by letting all his talent walk out the door. And then just kind of just got left the way we did.
Yeah, I do think fans will be a little bit surprised. I don't know where we're going to go with this, but my guess is that it's someone who's probably not the biggest name. A lot of these big name guys that you see thrown out, like Rob Saleh, Rex Ryan,
they're going to be head coaches.
Yeah, they're looking at head coaching jobs, or in Rex Ryan's case, if he doesn't get a head coach job, he probably goes back to the booth. I don't know how willing some of those guys are to take a defensive coordinator role. And if they are, great, fantastic. We know those guys have performed those roles before. That's fantastic. But I would not be surprised at all if it's a guy who's kind of unheard of. But as long as they get the job done, as long as they get after the quarterback.
He asking you, Trev. Paul is saying here, are you drinking beer?
Got Jack Daniels. What is it called? Black Jack Cola, man. Matter of fact, I'm about to grab another.
I have not drank in a few weeks here. I'm actually trying to work on myself. But Dave Stewart is saying here, agreed. Gus history was history regardless. Nathan is saying here, maybe Jason Bean pushes AR for the starting job. I don't think he will, personally, just me. I think you kind of bring in a guy off the streets to kind of compete with him. If you do bring in a guy, I'm hoping, we just roll with Sam back there again and kind of let AR keep going. But I really want to see a huge difference on this roster. I want to see players be better week in and week out, and this team get better, whether it be defensive backs. Like I said before, tight end rooms become more productive. Offensive line, hopefully they can stay healthy. I don't think too much needs to change there, but I want to see other positions, get up a little bit more. So I don't know if Bean is the guy to push them. I just kind of hope we make changes other places. Josh is saying here, I think Shane should give up play calling and focus on the team more. Josh, you're not alone in that thought. Our co-host Zach is not here tonight, but he's been saying that a lot. He thinks it's he's been saying Shane should give that up and kind of oversee the team a bit more. Yeah, I mean, me personally, I don't think play calling is the issue. Obviously, the way things have turned out, he needs to be more around the team, be more of a leader. And so, yeah, like I said, you're not alone in that thought. Just me personally, I don't really give too much thought to who's play calling.
That's kind of a hard one, because there's definitely been times and moments where the play calling sequence doesn't make sense, or when we really need to have it, it's like we just call a bizarre play. So that it is definitely in question. I fully understand fans that say that. But then my flip side is we're running his offense, his schemes, his everything. Like, we brought him in to do this. So if you take away his play calling, you say he needs to give that up, and you give it to Jim Bob Cooter, the best name in football, or whoever does it, right? Then why even have Shane in the first place? Like, this is supposed to be his bread and butter, I guess, is my thinking on it. So I'm not in a rush to take it away from him quite yet, because I feel like that's just going to lead into even further problems.
Yep. Nathan is saying here, does that mean AR's starting job is in jeopardy? Not totally sure. I think it's just more so just competition, as in um, putting a fire in somebody's belly,
Yeah.
not necessarily handing you a job, but making you earn it. Kind of like when AR had to compete with Gardner Minshew for a job. Obviously, we get the shoulder, stuff like that. But we're in a tough patch here as Colts fans since we're not actually starting fresh. Shane comes in and win 9 games, so there's clearly expectations that get put on you very quickly. So it's tough to say his job is not in jeopardy because of the fact that everybody wants to win here right now.
He's got to perform.
It's not like he's going to get like the fair chance to go from, hey, they were a 2-win team this year to a 4-win team to a 6-win team to a 9-win team. Like we didn't gradually grow, so I can't say in jeopardy, but I think it's just more so it's having somebody over your shoulder that's basically pushing you to keep your own job.
It's kind of sink or swim territory for Richardson.
I did not realize we had all these comments in here. My computer updated so slow.
Yeah, the comments are cooking today. But whether it's fair to Richardson or not, it's kind of sink or swim territory. Like he's going into year 3. We all know he hasn't played 3 years worth of games. But the fact of the matter is, it's year 3 of having him as our quarterback. And if he doesn't put a season that convinces you he's the franchise quarterback on tape, on film, it's hard to run it back and say we're good at quarterback. You know what I mean? Like we had this discussion shortly after the season ended where it was like, I know the context behind why his stats are so bad or so mediocre at times, but you can't have another year of more of the same, right? It has to improve at least marginally for you to look at the product and say, we're good with Richardson moving forward. Because if you're not, what a ball there from Pittsburgh.
But OPI though.
Damn. If you're not good with him, or he has another mediocre or bad or unhealthy year, it's fair to question, is his job in jeopardy? And at that point, it very well could be.
Should be the same for everybody. And I'm glad you brought up that last point because that was just what I was about to say. I'm one of those guys that since we drafted AR as a rookie, and I don't want to call myself like some big AR defender. If we drafted anybody outside of Will Levis, because I already knew how that was going to turn out.
Mayo man.
But I love to defend my guys, but I just hate the fact, like Trev said, we can have the context. I don't want to just defend you out of context every week.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be able to just drop one of these memes or some stats and be like, yeah, look, it's right here.
Did that. Yeah.
You didn't know. Like I can drop the New England game. I can drop the New York Jets game.
Yeah. Like, he's had those moments, to be fair.
I mean, it was 2 moments against trash teams, but I mean, still, it's just like I said, like I can use it. Like, what was it? Some Jets fan came onto a Colts fans page and was arguing because somebody talked about Derek Carr getting out of New Orleans, I think it was, or it was something else, something like that. Mm-hmm. But he was like, "Oh yeah, but your quarterback's still trash or whatever," and I was like, "Yeah, but that trash quarterback whooped your garbage team's ass." And then he said something else, and oh yeah, but your quarterback's still trash, and Shane Steichen's on the hot seat. And I went back and commented pretty much the same thing and added, and I said, but your garbage ass team got their ass kicked by a trash quarterback and a head coach who's on the hot seat. And guess what? Dude didn't comment back no more.
Yeah.
It's just like stuff like that.
It's much more
satisfying. Pull up. It's stuff like that. You want to be able to pull up and say, yeah, my quarterback did this.
Instead, we have to say, oh, AD.
It's because this guy had a drop and all the offensive line.
He got pressured. All the bullshit. Yeah.
We need something to be able to defend you. It just can't be context every week because we know people are casual. They're not going to care to go look at film or watch the game. They're just going to go on Google and say, oh, this is what happened. Nathan said Jason Bean. They said Jason Bean on a bigger role next year. I mean, I don't know if bigger role means quarterback, though. That just means because he's played a bunch of different positions. So
maybe that just means more usage. I don't
know. Nathan says, what do you think about Jameis Winston? He's a great locker room guy. I wouldn't mind having him being as somebody to push AR. I think he's going to be more of an expensive guy.
Yeah, I agree.
Dave Stewart saying here, trying to catch up on these comments before we keep going in the different more. But I believe AR has shown improvement. He has shown great flashes the last few games. He's finally hit the layups. He's basically played one season. We need to give him more time if we draft Warren and can keep a couple of tight ends. We have, if healthy, Woods and either Ogletree or Mallory. Absolutely, Dave. I'm with you. I'm one of the guys that I think that AR has gotten better. I think he needs to continue to play, and whether we sink or swim without him. Um, but yeah, like you said, my tight ends. If I was redoing the room, it would be Warren. I'd go get Juwan Johnson out of New Orleans. Then Mallory would be my third guy. Obviously, we drafted him, and he hasn't really got to play too much, so I want to see him.
That'd be it. Yeah.
And then number 4 would be Jelani Woods. You know, I'm not really too. I feel the same way I do about Brents as him. But I would just keep him just because of the upside that you may get. But Ogletree, Granson, we gotta replace these fucking guys. And then if the team wants to hang on to Woods, but that's just my opinion there. But I think that you do need to keep building with AR. He's showing more, and continue to build the roster up. This roster just needs to be better.
Yeah. Just as far as AR goes, I mean, he just can't plateau, man. Like I was just saying a minute ago, we have to see some progression, and then to me, I'm good. If I see progression, I want to continue giving him time. But if he plateaus or somehow regresses, or the biggest thing is can't stay healthy still, that's a serious issue.
Yeah, you know. I mean, it works for me because if you start Sam and we stink, guess what? We get a top pick. So that's what I mean. That's why I'm just like you sink or swim with AR. Paul is saying here.
I'm the same way.
I'm telling you guys, mark this down. Second or third round steal of this draft will be Kyle McCord. If you watch his film, he gets better every year, and for him to put Syracuse back on his back, and he did a phenomenal job.
He did.
We got a Colts fan who's a Syracuse fan. He goes crazy about this crap. I'm not really a Kyle McCord guy.
He had a very good year. He is a good quarterback, and he probably is in that second, third round range. Mm-hmm. I just don't want to spend a pick on a quarterback. It's what I said earlier. I would get a quarterback, one of those mid-tier guys from free agency for cheap because there's just so many other needs. And we have a guy who we believe should be the guy. It doesn't make a ton of sense to then draft someone in the second or third round. I know we talk about bringing in competition at quarterback, but that's not the way I would go about it.
Go get me a safety and a running back.
Yeah. That second, third round pick can still be potential starters in their first year, as opposed to a guy who's just going to hover around and potentially take AR's job, and then hopefully he's good. Like, I understand what you're getting at with this Kyle McCord narrative. He is a good quarterback. He might be a steal for somebody. I don't think it's for us.
My bad there, Jacob Hillenbrand. I missed your comment there. I meant to click on it, and I totally missed it. My fault there. Reggie is still wide receivers coach. Yeah. I believe there should be no changes to the offensive staff as far as I know. I do believe this was Reggie Wayne's last year contracted, though. So that's just what I think. I'm not 100%. So if we re-sign him and whether he wants to come back, we shall find out. Nathan saying here, I think AR don't lead. I think if AR doesn't lead the Colts to the playoffs next year and have a great year, he won't be back for year 4. I'm going to say I think you're wrong on that one. That is the one where I will kind of comment on your opinion there. If he has a great year, everybody's going to have to eat crow because Ballard won't shut the fuck up. I promise you that. AR's not going anywhere. If he came out and threw for like 3,500 yards, like just 22 touchdown passes, had like 10 rushing TDs, and like 8 picks or something, he's not going anywhere. Ballard wouldn't be going anywhere. Shane wouldn't be going anywhere. It would probably suck. I'm guessing there'd be an issue somewhere else. But if you say he would have a great year, I don't think there would be any changes. That's just me. David saying, as a backup guy, maybe Andy Dalton type, a guy who is not looking to be a starter. Flacco, in my opinion, was a cancer because he wanted to start. I don't think he gave a damn about AR, helping AR learn. I agree with you, Dave. I think any backup is just kind of hard to, be a positive guy. That's why I do think a Jameis Winston would be a really good backup for AR because I think he would be positive regardless of the situation, regardless of him wanting to play a lot. But me personally, I don't care too much about backup. Like I said, let Sam be that guy, whatever. AR thinks Sam's a really good leader. He's been around helping and stuff like that. Like you said, not looking over the shoulder type, so that way AR doesn't have to worry about his job. He can play freely, but still at the same time, he needs to have somebody pushing him to know, like, I think AR has learned a lot this season to where he knows, like, any given day your job can be gone. So
Yeah.
I think, like you said, not looking over the shoulder type.
Just iron
But,
sharpens iron, man. And this
yeah.
comment too is part of the reason why I go back to guys like a Zach Wilson, like a Cooper Rush, like a Josh Dobbs, like that. I look for that kind of guy, yeah, that knows they're not the starter. You know what I mean? Obviously, everyone wants to play, everyone wants to start, but a guy like Cooper Rush has been a backup for a long time. He knows he's not the starter, but he knows if he gets his moment, he can manage the game, somewhat decently. A role that Gardner would have been great at if we could have kept him as a long-term backup, but obviously that was not to be.
He went to go get his money.
Yeah, and who could blame the guy? But someone like that is fine with being a backup, but can also do well when they're called upon. I do think it's moderately important. I've kind of changed my view on that too, because originally I did not give a damn who was the backup quarterback. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I'd like a decent QB2. I'm tired of worrying about QB2, but I'd like a decent one just to keep.
I promise you, bro, you're only caring about the QB2 is because we benched AR and he's gotten hurt. If we had Lamar Jackson, Mahomes, Josh Allen,
it's the fact that is our reality. That part of me does care and wants someone decent in there. But yeah, that's pretty much why.
I personally don't care about it because it's like anytime if you see a starting quarterback go down, one of the good guys, you think, oh shit, their season's over. They're done. Yeah. That's what I want it to be for us. I don't want to have our starter go down and it'd be like, oh yeah, let's keep trying to win. Like, bro, we're cooked. Let's get his top pick. Like, I don't like that's me personally. I mean, I like maybe if we had like a Mahomes or a Lamar Jackson, something like that, Josh Allen, then I'd be cool with a vet being back there because it's like you don't want to get to week 10 and your quarterback has to miss like 3 games due to an ankle or whatever it is, like the Jordan Love situation, and you don't want your whole season to be cooked. So, like, I get it.
Well, but like, yeah, they had Malik Willis who played decently. Like, that's the kind of situation I'm looking at.
Well, it was the Colts' fault. He was even still in the NFL. He should have been done after that week.
Exactly.
Like, that's another reason why we need a new goddamn DC. I want a DC that make quarterbacks retire.
Oh yeah, there's much bigger needs than QB2. It's not my priority, but it's low on the list. It is in there, yeah.
Absolutely. Scott Rigsby is saying Shane sucks as a play caller. This is Shane's last year.
I don't think so.
I mean, you got some dislike for Shane. Joshua Merchant is saying here, off the wall topic, but if Reggie does not make the Hall of Fame this year, it is a travesty. He should have been in by now anyway.
Nice.
Absolutely, completely agree. And him and our boy Adam Vinatieri should be getting in this year.
First ballot, yeah.
Scott Rigsby is also saying here, it is everyone's sink or swim time. Jason Bean is number 2 next season. Sam is gone.
I think it's his last year of his contract.
Also saying number 4 draft pick Jackson Dart.
Oh, I disagree hard.
Oh my goodness. I go watch the Florida game. Go watch the Florida game and ask me again if we want to watch draft Jackson Dart.
Actually, both of our teams beat up on
I don't want.
He's good when he plays mediocre teams. Anytime he faces NFL talent, he has crumbled. Just like Ole Miss always does. Look, Jackson Dart is a solid talent for the 3rd round, maybe for a team to take and develop. Same situation as Kyle McCord, but probably worse than Kyle McCord. He shouldn't be a Colt, in my opinion.
Don't want him. David's saying here, a perfect example of people calling a player trash and not looking deeper is Pierce. Everyone's saying drops, but if you check, he had 3 drops in each of his first 3 seasons.
He wasn't getting targets.
If you go back and watch this show, I mean, I think some of us did, have some comments about Pierce, but I've said it all along that the guy just needed a quarterback to push the ball to him. So, completely agree with you, Dave.
Been saying it for years, baby.
Paul Nelson is saying here, I really hate to say it, but AR isn't going to be the guy.
We'll see this year, man.
Hey, I don't hate to say it. I mean, I don't know if he's going to be a guy or not. Sometimes it takes time, but I just would rather see it out. I'm the type of person that when you put the chips in that basket, you need to see it through. Obviously, I do mean in good health. If he's on the field and he's playing bad, that comes with the game. But at the end of the day, if you're just going to take top draft picks and then just throw them away, like we've already done that with Andrew Luck, we don't need to keep doing it. And I'm not trying to compare Anthony Richardson to Andrew Luck. I'm just saying, you spent the number 4 overall on this pick on the pick with this guy,
and you knew it'd be up and down.
Exactly. You knew what he was when he was coming out.
At least this year. If this year is AR sink or swim year, in some fans' opinion, I understand that. I'm somewhat there, not quite. But you have to see it through. Like you can't just ship him out this year. It doesn't make any sense. Yep.
Joshua Mercer saying here, we have bigger needs than tight end and a second running back to go with JT. Scott is clarifying here. He said 4th round pick Jackson Dart. Okay. Never mind. Never mind.
I thought you meant number 4 overall.
Yeah, you said number 4 draft pick. So if you're saying 4th round draft pick, I completely agree. I actually wouldn't be mad if we took him there then, because if you think back, it's kind of like a RG3 Kirk Cousins type situation back with the Redskins.
I still wouldn't, but that makes sense. That makes sense.
I don't think Chris Ballard should be worried about quarterback. You drafted Anthony Richardson. It took you long enough to get one. You need to fix this roster. You said you don't want to blow it up with money. Get me some goddamn talent. But yeah, to Josh, I gotta disagree, man. I look, last year, y'all can go look at it all through draft season. I banged at this table with my guys here. I argued on Twitter all year. I said, do not draft Brock Bowers. Don't take Brock Bowers. I don't want Brock Bowers. I love his talent, but I don't believe in a tight end being a 1st round pick. And I'll tell you right now, I should put a clown mask on and tell you I couldn't have been more wrong. I was a jackass. I was a dummy. I was a casual for not believing in Brock Bowers. I'm telling you right now. Like, the game is changing to where you need to believe that every year you should probably grab you a wide receiver, because there's the chances that they're going to take off and become really good. With tight ends, if you see a guy that's showing generational ability, you need to take a chance on that guy. And when I watch Tyler Warren play, this dude can block like an offensive lineman. Yeah. He has the grit of a Quentin Nelson. He has the hands of a really good wide receiver. I call him the more athletic version of a Dallas Clark. They put this guy in the wildcat and will run him directly up the middle.
He's got the speed of a running back.
Man, and I mean speed, like good, really good speed, not just slow. So the reason I want Tyler Warren is because he's so versatile as a player. He brings talent to that position that we are dead in.
Yeah. Talent and physicality too, which is a big problem with this team this past year, is just the lack of physicality, the lack of athletic. Well, we have athletes, but the lack of them doing anything with their God-given abilities. Tyler Warren does not struggle there. He lays his shoulder on people. He smacks people around. Like, do yourself a favor if you somehow missed the Penn State game in the recent, I believe it was Friday night.
Please go back and watch it.
Dude, I know they lost the game. Notre Dame was a great team, everything.
He only had like 30 or 40 yards in that game, and you can find some people that'll tell you he was the best player on the field.
Yeah.
I mean,
he affected every play. Like, for a tight end, that is not easy to do, and that guy does it very easily. So
I'm telling you guys right now, I'm the guy that screamed it all the time. Don't take a tight end in the 1st round. I am here to tell you I'm wrong. I've looked at myself and tried to get a better evaluation of tight ends and what they mean to teams these days.
Especially with mobile quarterbacks, by the way.
Exactly. You need that security blanket for the guy. Get me Tyler Warren. Would just love to have him. And then Ballard was even asked about the production in his tight end room, and he said that he did not give Shane enough in that room and for guys to work over the middle of the field. And Tyler Warren absolutely eats over the middle of the field. So I know you may think that we have bigger needs than tight end, and I'm not saying that they couldn't go a different way, because obviously if we could get like a Ben Morrison or a what is it, Will Johnson from Michigan,
he somehow slid
if we can get one of those top tier corners,
that's a little different.
I wouldn't be mad, or a top tier pass rusher like Abdul Carter. Then I could say, I would understand why going over. But I'm just saying right now, like the way Ballard or Bowers was able to split to 12, I think you got to do it with Tyler Warren. And I don't even think Tyler Warren is as good as a pure tight end as Bowers, but he can do more. Like you can put this guy anywhere.
He's a freak, man.
I'm all in on Tyler Warren and give me a top top tier defensive player in the second round. Paul Nelson is saying here, man, think of how hard luck screwed this organization.
I mean,
I look, I don't want to get into an argument about luck, but I will just say I think we got it backwards. I think the organization screwed luck.
Too,
so
yeah. It kind of went, it kind of went both ways. But
even John Gruden said
that's so long ago, though. Like that is so long ago. We can't, even if it was just luck, we can't blame him anymore. It's been so long. John
Gruden said it today. He said Andrew Luck was the perfect quarterback. Man. I'm tired of hearing about it because we killed him. Scott Rigsby is saying Tyler Warren all the way. Paul Nelson has said, I told you guys Bowers should have been the guy. I was going to go buy you guys jerseys. Hey, man, it would have been nice, man. It would have been so nice.
You can buy us Warren jerseys.
It's crazy because
we're in.
I don't know if Ballard was trying to trade up for him, but he was definitely trying to trade up. And if we would have got Bowers, I mean, I would have been happy that he was a Colt. Yeah. But I would have been even so much happier to be wrong all season to watch him go over 1,000 yards and do what he did. So I mean, dude, it's just legit. Josh is saying here, no, I agree. I think we should take a tight end in the first round. Also think we need running back. Oh, you were saying that we need to go get. That's what I kind of thought you were saying, but the way I read it sounded the opposite. But yeah, absolutely. I screamed for a running back all last year.
A lot of good ones in this draft.
And yeah, there's a lot of guys that I would like. I want a really explosive guy. So
I truly think you can get a guy in this class specifically in the 4th or 5th round, and he can still be a high level contributor. So there's a ton of good running backs in this class.
Jacob Hillenbrand is making fun of me here. He's saying I was wrong. You know, he said I'm sounding like Chris Ballard.
Dead wrong.
But see the difference about me and Chris Ballard is it only took me a year. You know what I'm saying? It only took me a year to say, let me fix it right now. Miracle, new commenter in here is saying, appreciate you coming in. It's saying here, QB is the biggest needs for the Colts. I emphatically disagree.
Yeah, I disagree.
Paul is saying here,
not the biggest.
I would much rather have Bowers, but Tyler Warren is the man. Yeah, I think so. I mean, as a pure tight end, yeah, but I think if Bauer or Warren, the way you can line him up, move him around, and he's hard as hell to tackle. If you guys have watched him play,
I mean, the dude's built like LeBron.
He's a boy amongst men. He's 6'6", 260, and I'm guessing he's gonna run like 4'5", 4'6". That's crazy at that size, bro.
That guy's a freak. They put him in some kind of super soldier serum facility and just let Captain America out. I mean, the guy's ridiculous.
Ash is saying I want Warren. Scott is saying here, please stop talking about Andrew Luck. Yeah, I tried not to get into it too much. I tried to leave it as short as I possibly could. It pains me too. But yeah. So a few more to jump into here that we have from Ballard. Ballard said Pittman will not need surgery this offseason. He had a fracture in his back, played all offseason, so I hope you were not a Pittman hater. Dude is an absolute dog. Build him a statue. I don't care, bro. He goes out there. He's willing to die for this team every single week. I got nothing to say about Pittman.
Absolute warrior. Like that guy. And then if you remember, too, after the game, he talked about Quentin Nelson, DeForest Buckner, Jonathan Taylor. He was like, I need to give my all for guys like that. Like those kind of guys, including Pittman, obviously, that's the kind of guys that I want to be the pillar of this team. I don't like I don't like the other stuff. That kind of warrior mentality that Pittman has for his teammates, dude, that's what the Colts have always been about, and that's what we need to get back to. Like, he's a Colt through and through. I love that guy.
And just like he just said, and if you're a Colt player and you're in that locker room and you didn't hear him name your name, that should let you know what you need to push to.
Yeah, you need to be like them.
Appreciate you, Jacob. Nathan is saying here, I'm predicting 2K yards, 25 touchdowns, and 23.
I don't think he's going to throw that much.
That would be a terrible season. I don't see that happening. But
he's not going to even throw enough to get 23. That'd be scary, though.
Somebody noted this. I kind of jumped this in late in my notes, but somebody on Twitter had pointed out how Ballard was late And he kind of laughed as soon as he got in about something or whatever, and said basically this is why our players are late to meetings and shit like that is going around. It's just not the standard that we should be holding up. So somebody pointed that out. So that wasn't too good point of this presser there. We already talked about Shane will be hiring his own DC. That'll be a part of it. They asked Ballard about what how what was it? Let me figure out how to word this out. Wanting an aggressive defense and how that'll shake out for us and be different. Ballard said we got to be able to affect the quarterback, which we haven't really done. And then he did not comment on Braden Smith and his personal situation, so that was that as well.
Yeah, I do think it was interesting too. Just going back to the defense,
kind of
you could kind of see the I guess frustration with him too. Just talking about like how piss poor we were at tackling this year. He did talk a little bit when people asked him about the whole Zaire Pat situation, EJ Speed, like that whole podcast thing, everything we've talked about as fans and everything. However you feel about it, and it was as simple to him as, you can't win with distractions. He didn't comment on his discussion with Zaire. So it is encouraging that they have addressed it. They have talked internally about those situations, because as much as I like the talent of Zaire Franklin, I've been on here and I've said, I hate the antics. I hate the bullshit.
We've had some heated debates about it.
100%. But just if we can get away from that stuff and more to just the same mentality as Pittman, dude. Just Colts football, winning football, making tackles, playing aggressively. Like, these are the things. He said all the right things, I feel like. So I just go back to, I hope we start to see the action behind it from Ballard and from the players as well who have talked about these things.
Absolutely. Paul Nelson is saying here, are we going to see Josh Downs' brother as a Colt, Caleb as a Colt? He has one more year left, and then he'll be draft eligible. Right now I'm going to say no, just because I'm praying we don't have to be garbage enough to be able to take him in the draft for how high he'll be. But I would, exactly. I would love to have the guy, but my guy Xavier Watts and Mabuka from Texas. Those are two guys that I would love for us to grab at safety, and hopefully it wouldn't be a need anymore.
I also, too, I really like at cornerback from Texas. I want to say his name's Jahdae Barron.
Jahdae Barron, that's one of my guys, too. He locks up.
Dude, he played Jeremiah Smith. Now, they threw a couple different looks at Jeremiah Smith. They threw him in a couple two-man coverage, even three-man at one point. So they did a lot of things to kind of confuse him. But, yeah, Jeremiah Smith did not have – obviously, Ohio State won the game. He didn't have the insane 200-yard game that he's been putting on guys. But Barron was a huge part of that. So if we can – I don't know where his draft stock's at right now. I'm not too sure. But if we can snag a guy like that, I think he'd be a huge addition.
Yeah, definitely. He's one of my guys, too, at cornerback. Like I said, man, I haven't, sorted through film enough to tell you, like, where I got all these guys ranked and stuff like that.
Yeah, same here.
I just got some favorites on guys and where I've been putting them, so I'll try and get that to you guys as we kind of catch up to draft season, because
we're getting there. Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you guys. When the season is still going on and playoffs and stuff, and I got to start acting like I'm excited about draft season and mock drafts and stuff, it pisses me off more and more to think about it. So I'll try and get you guys updated on where I rank people. And
we always do. If you've been a fan of the show for a while, we always have more than enough draft content. So as we get closer to the draft, we'll talk more about that stuff. But I just want to throw those names out there.
Absolutely. Jacob is saying to get Caleb Downs, we're going to have to suck. Exactly. Paul's also reiterating the same, or he's saying he'll be in the next draft. Scott is saying here most of the time defense is a problem, is trying to get the ball out and not making the tackle. Exactly. That's why we need to be better on defense.
Starks.
Paul Nelson is saying, what about Sarks? I do have Sarks. If I was to say like I was saying my favorites and stuff, I have Watts, then I have Mabuka, and then I have Starks. Right now I'm not gonna lie and say like I've watched a ton of Starks. I've seen a lot of I've seen more of Watts and Mabuka, but I've always kind of felt like Starks was more so just his name a little bit. I mean, it's just me. Like I
Guys,
said,
he's a
I
bulldog.
haven't got to watch too much of him. But I've just had him third. I've never really had him high pretty much at any point. So, like I said, I'm gonna have to do a bit more research on him and kind of get a feel out for what I think there. But I do have him third as far as my picks, my favorites of guys.
He is a very good player. Don't get me wrong. I'll be happy if we get Malachi Starks. But I kind of lean the same way. Xavier Watts has been far and away the best safety in college football, in my opinion. So I'm kind of surprised.
Think he's going second.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised he's not in this top 15 discussion, and Malachi Starks is. I wonder how much of that is just due to the fact that he's a Georgia Bulldog. But they have earned that reputation for a reason, so maybe there's something to that. Look, if the card's turning at 14 and it says Malachi Starks, I'm not mad at it. But my personal rankings right now, I agree to Marco. I have Watts a little bit higher than him.
Exactly. Yeah, I have him higher than him as well, but I got Starks for some reason getting drafted higher. But that's just one of those things. Zach, stop playing with me.
It's
I'm
funny
not there. I
just
just
we were just talking about that earlier.
I feel like I'm gonna kind of end up the same way I did with Bowers last year with this, but Zach is saying here. So Scat, he's talking about Scatabo from ASU over everybody at running back. I don't want him. If we didn't have JT, I would. But yes, I don't want another type bruiser back. I want a guy who's a bit more explosive, can really catch the ball and everything like that. So, stop playing Zach. I'm not taking Scat unless we're trading JT for a first round pick.
I think Cam Skativo is an incredible talent. He can do everything in the game. Like he's a big body, but he's got speed to him and he can catch the ball. So he's an impressive player, but he needs touches. And we already have Jonathan Taylor. We're paying him millions of dollars to get touches. So it's like you said, we don't need that kind of arch type of player. I'd rather have a guy that has that one cut and has that burst that you can give him 6 or 7 touches and he might go off for 40-something yards and a touchdown with just those touches. We don't have time or the carries to give Cam Skativo 17 touches. You know what I mean? So it just doesn't make sense.
Zach is killing me. Stop playing Zach. JLH for tough. Appreciate you coming in here. It's a new commenter. First time I've seen you in here. He said we need to grab that tackle from Ohio State to replace Smith. I don't believe we're drafting high enough to get him, so that won't be in our cards. That's just Zach going on about Scatabo. Paul Nelson gonna hit you with another Syracuse guy, Marlowe Wax Jr. Absolutely great backer and plays like Franklin. I don't know if a lot of people. I was gonna say I don't know if a lot of people. Well, Trev said he didn't know much about him. I was gonna say I don't know if a lot of people want another Syracuse linebacker just because the way they've been kind of mad.
Zaire's ruined it.
But I haven't gotten to Wax Jr. too much, so I have to check him out as well. But I have seen some of his stuff. I know one of our guys really, one of the guys that I follow on Twitter really likes him. So yeah, we'll see. Scott,
I agree with this.
He is saying, "I'm mad." He would be mad if we pick Starks and I want. Yeah, me too.
I'd rather have Warren than Starks.
I can't see. I don't want to say mad just because me, like, I'm a real hopeful guy about first round picks. Not mad. I like to be positive about them and stuff like that. But if you pick somebody that I really feel like I was against and stuff like that, then I will be a little salty because if we pass on Warren, that'd be totally different than him getting picked before. Zach is saying here, so yes. More pass catching third down back. Absolutely. Give me Nick Singleton. Give me Travion Henderson. Give me that boy out of Tennessee. I'm forgetting his name right now.
Samson or something.
Yeah, give me Samson.
Dylan Sampson, I think.
Dylan Sampson.
Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame.
Jeremiah Love. Give me that boy Omarion Hampton out of UNC. I mean, like I said it last year. Go look at all the backs I named for you guys last year. Tyrone Tracy, Isaac Gorindo, Bucky Brooks.
Yep.
Or I said Bucky Brooks. That's the TV guy. Bucky Irving.
Yeah.
Bucky Irving. All those guys that I named last year were 3 down backs who could receive the ball, and they played very well. I'm telling you right now, get me one of those running backs, Ballard. Please don't miss on them again. Yeah. Explosive backups to JT is what we need. I think we're all in for Warren for a first. Who's your second round pick? Mine will be Xavier Watts.
Xavier Watts. I mean, it just depends who's available, though. Like that, we are in kind of a tough spot in the second round because we picked 14th. I think Xavier Watts is late first, early second. But I wouldn't be against trading up to get him at the end of the first or the beginning of the second if that's what it takes. Like I think those 2 picks would be just a dream draft for me, and the next rounds can go however as long as we get those 2.
Yes, sir.
But we'll see. Man.
We're gonna get a little bit more back into the Ballard. Ballard said he won't spend all the cap and stuff to try and save his ass in the future. We did talk about that a little bit, so kind of won't get too much into that one. He did put it on himself that he said closing in on free agents is on him. Because the question was to him is Irsay willing to spend money, and has it been a problem pretty much to get free agents due to the cost? Ballard said Irsay is willing to spend money. He wants to win. He doesn't care what it costs. So he said that it's on him to close in on these free agents, and that Irsay is willing to spend.
Yeah, I mean we've been in some fairly high profile free agent discussions, and it's as you said, we haven't closed on them. As Ballard said too, we haven't closed on like the most recently being Snead going to Tennessee. Like we were in that discussion all the way up until the end.
No, thank God Ballard didn't go in on Snead, bro.
Yeah, it played out how it played out. Obviously it's better, but he was a high profile player at that time, seen as a hot commodity, and we were in that discussion. So it's not like some fans say where Ballard just hasn't picked up the phone. I don't think that's the case. I do think Ballard in the last couple of years has had a limit that he won't go past and he won't outbid himself, and that's why we can't close on guys as he said. But we've been in these discussions, and I think fans just quickly forget about it because we don't end up closing on it. So he is right to address that he hasn't closed on guys, but hopefully we see that change this offseason.
Yep, exactly. Zach is saying here, would y'all be mad if the Colts went D-line again, addressing interior defensive line, if the player on the board is there in round 1? See, so I'm gonna tell you right now,
the dual Carter.
My top, well, me personally, who I like that I've loved not seen on film. I gotta, like I said, I still gotta get my order out. But Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss would be the top defensive interior lineman to me.
He's a monster.
I'm gonna tell you right now, Zach. If we were to draft Walter Nolan, I'd be pissed, bro.
Really?
I'd be pissed because I do not see him as a game changer to this defense more than DeForest Buckner. And could he possibly take more snaps from Grover Stewart? Maybe, but I don't see it, bro. I don't see why you would go interior defensive line there. I
mean, it also depends who's available. Like to me, if both Warren and Starks and whoever are gone at 14 and you just kind of go best available, that is what it is. But I would like to go needs first. I'd like to go tight end or defensive back at that 14 slot. I wouldn't be mad if we take something other than that if the talent warrants it, but I'm just not sure who that'd be right now.
Paul Nelson is saying here we need a top free agent cornerback. I'm telling you right now, man, if we can go in this draft, if we go Tyler Warren, Xavier Watts, if we already grab Charvarius Ward would be my top cornerback in free agency. If we can get him from San Francisco, he already said he wants to leave because every time he's there, he gets some bad memories about his daughter that passed away. So I would love to steal him out of SF, add him to that room. Then we have Watts there. I don't know if we go in on another safety after already grabbing Watts because I kind of think that would fill the room. But if we can get one more cornerback, I'm telling you right now, that would be a major
changes a lot. Changes a lot. Yeah, and then you run it back to you still have Jalen Jones and Sam Womack available. That makes the room immediately a lot.
Man, you got that boy Brents. You got all of them over there competing. We gonna find somebody to play.
One of you is going to cover a wide receiver. You just got to figure out who it's going to be.
And Dave Stewart here is just clarifying for me, talking about the Daniil Hunter was the conversation is Irsay willing to spend? Scott is saying here, tight end, safety, cornerback. After that, best player available. Completely agree with you. I can't say if I would put corner on safety right now, honestly. I would have to see who I would put a higher grade on, and come back and tell you guys who I would go cornerback or safety. But right now, I can tell you both are a need, so I wouldn't say one over the other.
Yeah, I haven't dug too deep in it either, but all these names that Ashley has listed here with Barron and Watts and what other guys have mentioned as well. Yeah, all those guys are on that board that are right around where we should be picking too. So it could play out really well for us.
And we are getting a new DC, so some of that can change too. So he might come in and he might like Brents and Jones. I'm hoping that it's not like, hey, don't just keep just these guys, but he may like what we have. So I'm just hoping that we're not sticking to the same, like we got to have zone cornerbacks. I want versatile guys, which is really why I'm liking some of the guys out of Notre Dame, Texas. I'm not trying to say Georgia isn't versatile, but if you go watch their film, you see better guys pop up on film, like their defensive line or their linebacker. I love their linebacker. I want to say, I think his name is Nick too. Nick Singleton. I'm thinking he might have the same name as Penn State's running back. But they got a linebacker over there that these guys just they play on film. So I just think I want some guys that are versatile that don't necessarily they aren't just only eating off the defensive line. I'm not trying to say Starks is just doing that, but there's just some more versatile guys that I like.
We can't forget too, beyond the draft and free agency. I don't know if you had this as one of your bullet points, but Ballard, he made a couple comments about he wouldn't name the player, but it was like when he was talking about ego and he was talking about attitudes.
I got that in
here. He just said like X player. And I've been curious on who that might be. I don't think it's Zaire. A lot of people have said Zaire, but he openly said he had discussions with Zaire. No. My guess is EJ Speed, but I don't know. It's all speculation. But what the reason I bring it up,
I don't think it was Speed either.
Well, the reason I bring it up is I still think we're going to see trades as well. I don't know how many. I don't know to what extent, but I would not be surprised if we see a starting defensive player, whoever that X player ends up being, get traded out. And what might result from that. So that's still an angle that could be at play as well.
Yeah, I think X player is a guy that already has is already up for free agency. But we won't get to that one in here because I do got that one in here. Real quick, Paul, I see you down there, but I'm going to get in a little bit more of these real quick. So he basically asked, or Ballard was asked when the Colts drafted A.D. Mitchell, or I don't know if it was asked, but it was kind of just brought up. He basically said that he was asked about Alec Pierce, and he said when the Colts drafted A.D. Mitchell, Pierce went to Ballard and asked him what it means for him. Ballard told him to compete, and he went in there, and everybody saw what he did this season. So just wanted to shout that out in there. Ballard did feel like the D-line played pretty well. He knows that obviously everybody loves to see sacks. Like I said before, me and Trev brought that up for everybody, context and stuff like that. Everybody wants to see the sacks, but I also agreed with that. Outside of the running game, I think some of our running game took some nosebleeds here and there. But I thought the D-line played pretty well. And so
it's hard to get
that's just something
and the sacks when coverage when the ball is getting out so quick because coverage is shit. So that's one of those things that goes hand in hand where like we need to be better. Somebody just got popped in the Steelers.
Hey, that was a good clean hit. Yeah. I love that. That was real football right there. Good clean hit. No flags. Let them play like that. And he held on to the ball.
Made the catch. Mad props. Sorry, guys. But shoot, what was I saying? I forgot.
You were saying how the defensive line can get sacks.
Oh, yeah. So it is hard when the ball's coming out and less than 2 seconds because someone's wide open every time. I mean, we've all watched it for 17 games a year for a couple years. Like, it's hard to get sacks when you can't even get to the guy. That's why we have a lot of pressures. We don't have a lot of sacks. The ball always gets out because someone's always open. So it goes hand in hand.
And that also goes back to us playing that trash ass cover three, always backing off.
Agreed.
Shit like that would go to see.
Coverage is better than we're going to see. I think we have guys in the D-line right now who can perform. I'd still add a guy, but like I said earlier, I wouldn't go crazy with the D-line. I think we have players there. Mm-hmm. We just need time for them to get to the quarterback.
Absolutely. You got to make guys hold on to the ball in the NFL. Simple as that.
Facts.
He also said after saying the D-line played pretty well, he said we've got to be better at cornerback and safety. I believe the question was after they asked him, is he going to address those in either free agency or draft or something like that? And he repeated again, we've got to be better at corner and safety. So we clearly know that free agency and draft should be looking at those positions. And then we'll get to the one that everybody is asking about, what Trev spoke about. The person commenting honestly, Ballard pretty much addressed that immediately. As Dave says here, Ballard said, Dave says Ballard learns the name of the chicken shit player, they're gone. And just like that was what Trev was alluding to. Me personally, I hate to, put players' names out there who I may think, because I did this before with JT, and I apologize, JT, if you ever see this or seen that episode before. I love you, you're my dog. But I think it was Julian Blackmon personally. It could have also been Kenny Moore, since he's a leader. He typically speaks up. But I just feel like Kenny Moore would have said it on camera if it was him, if he felt like that.
He's never had a problem with that.
So I do believe it was Julian Blackmon. And like I was telling you, Trev, before, he's a free agent. So is Speed. So if it was either one of them, they would be gone. As Scott is saying down there, EJ Speed is gone. So not totally sure. And then the last one I had noted here was that Ryan Kelly was gone. Oh, actually, I did have more here. Holy shit, I took a lot of notes.
Long presser.
Ryan Kelly, he has not talked to Ryan Kelly. But yeah, just going to jump backwards here real quick. So yeah, I don't know who the player was, but like somebody said, like Trev said, if we see somebody get traded, then it's probably them. That don't listen to any presses or anything like that. It's probably that player.
Because we don't make moves like that very often, so that would be that kind of decision.
And then obviously, if you see some certain players that aren't re-signed, probably going to be multiple reasons.
Indicative too, yeah.
Paul Nelson is saying here, what if Abdul Carter is there at 14? I would draft him. I'm drafting him immediately, and I'm trading Kwity Paye to the first available bidder. Whoever will take him, take his how much? $15 million? I think that's what his fifth-year option, I believe, something like that is supposed to be. So I would take him, trade Kwity Paye. That's what I would do. I don't think you pass on Abdul Carter at all.
Yeah.
That's mini Micah Parsons right there.
Touchdown Steelers. Yeah, I mean, just overall, we just kind of finally caught up a little bit.
Man, Jefferson.
But just an overall blanket statement on the presser is I really feel like the moves we see will tell us a lot more than everything he said. So he said a lot, and he said a lot of the right things. But the moves we see, whether guys are traded, whether guys are we let them walk, and then the guys that we bring in and the guys we sign, that's going to be very indicative and tell us a lot about what went wrong this year. Because we know how the Colts are. We know how Shane Steichen is. And to some degree, I appreciate how close to the vest they are about a lot of issues, because you don't want a lot of that stuff in the press. So I can appreciate that. But just as a fan, we talk about these storylines all year, how we're curious what the issues are. We talk about culture. Who's the culture problem? We talk about attitude and ego. Who's having those kind of problems? This offseason is going to tell us everything that we could question, really. Anyone who's on this team next year, I think after the year we had and after the comments that Ballard made, I think it's fair to say if they're on this team next year that they've either made up for whatever those issues were or they were never a part of that issue. I think that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I say that about either free agents on the offensive side of the ball or defensive players, because I think that's where that comment came from personally.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree completely with Trev. But like he started out that statement saying actions speak louder than words. So we'll see which actions are taken to those comments or words and everything that's been going on.
I got to give credit too. Like the reporters, they did not hold back with Ballard. Like they had some really good questions and some really like, hey, like you gotta fuck this up kind of vibe. Like they were all professional, but
I want to say Ballard started with that though too. Ballard started with that too.
Kind of fell on his sword, which I thought the whole thing was handled very well, and I really respected the approach he took. But now like he has to back up what he said.
I love that everything was critical.
Yeah. Because if he would have went in there and said, well, if this would have happened and we
like our guys,
I would have freaked out, dude. It'd be hard to be on this podcast right now and say, go Colt. Like I'd have a hard time. I'd do it, but it'd be rough.
But
I wouldn't even say go Colts. I'd fuck this team. I
fuck
just
this
straight up.
team.
I was like, I still
I
love
love
you,
this team, but fuck
I
this
love
team.
y'all. Fuck y'all.
Yeah,
for sure.
But I don't really have that attitude because Ballard clearly has seen and admitted where he went wrong.
I'm telling you, that's all somebody needs is that little glimmer of hope to feel some difference, and that's
now
what
we have
made
to see
the
the
difference.
action.
So we just got to see
the
it.
action.
We just got to see it to raise that bar from here to now. I can have some hope for the season.
Yeah, I can start believing again.
We got a little bit more here. Zaire's Ballard spoke on the Zaire situation a little bit about the podcast. He said he won't speak on the conversation, but he let him know you can't win with distractions. And I don't necessarily think he means the podcast itself, but just more so everything that happened, losing to the Giants after speaking on them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then also the stuff with Pat McAfee that went back and forth. Real quick, I just want to chime on this because you put this here. I hope not.
Hell no.
I'm tired of seeing him.
Get him out of here.
Yeah, so
he's the problem.
I had a Ballard. So this is going back to the AR stuff. Ballard wasn't holding any players' hands anymore. The standard. It's time to be better. This was the one that really hit me. As you guys can see my name down there at the bottom, you guys see Trev's name, where he talked about, bringing in competition and making this roster better. This is the one that really hit me because we talked about this before. It was Ballard says he was basically over the good guys. You can be a really good person and stuff like that. But he wants guys that are going to be talented on the field and be culture fixtures. He wants players that are going to be in that locker room, and if you see a problem, you're stopping it right then and there. It ain't no more of this, we got to wait till this, and that. Like, we've seen guys speak during the season and speak on some stuff that's been going on. Ballard wants more of those. This is the part that really hit me because I've been saying it for a while. Like, hey, yeah, we want some good character guys. We want some guys that aren't going to get in trouble. Yeah. But at some point,
nice guys.
I need you to be talented, and you might be willing to punch a motherfucker in the face to say this ain't how we do it here. Because we're losing it. We're losing teams. We're being dumb. We're losing the teams who we shouldn't lose to. I absolutely. I hope this is the way. It's tough to say exactly who the player may be or may not be, but I really hope he sticks to this one because I think this will make the biggest difference for us in the draft and a free agency.
It's interesting too because that was a loud discussion with Frank Reich. Like that was a Reich locker room thing. And it's like we got rid of Frank Reich, but we kept that same attitude of they have to be nice guys to be in here. And then we see, and the same core group of players. That shit doesn't work, man. And that's why over time, if you have nice guys that have talent, hold each other accountable, great. That's ideal, right? But the problem is we have all these quote unquote nice guys. And over time, they get complacent because they don't have to earn their job. They don't have to earn their place. They know they're safe there because it's just cool. It's home. It's Indianapolis. So, it's interesting that was such a Reich locker room thing. And because we have all of the same players, which Ballard admitted was a mistake, that kind of leaked its way into now the Steichen era where now they're not so nice anymore. They're just complacent. We hear about culture issues, character issues, and it's all the same guys, So it's interesting how that issue has changed over time. But yeah, I really like what he said too, where he's like, character matters, but we need some dogs in here.
We need football players, bro.
Yeah. Like it's at the end of the day, it's a football team, man. I mean,
there's football players that can be good character guys too.
Yeah, you don't want to just go and get the bad dudes of the world. I'll avoid some ongoing discussions in the football world, but you don't want guys that are out there committing crimes and felonies and shit, but you want good football players first. And if they add to the locker room and they're good dudes second, that's ideal, right? Like that should be the discussion.
Derrick
Henry breaks away for a 30-yard touchdown.
Crazy. Yeah, completely agree with Trev. Got a few comments here, and I think we're almost at everything checked off there. Paul Nelson is saying here, whatever we do this season is going to be critical for this year upcoming. Irsay is really letting down this franchise, and fans are calling for him to sell the team. I ain't going to lie to you. I tweeted out maybe once or twice for him. He should probably sell the team as well, just because I've been pissed off a couple times because I'm tired of the bullshit, dog. Like, I'm one of the biggest – I I don't want to say I'm one of the biggest homers because I'm a football fan, so I will point out real things. But for my teams, if they can be good, I'm the biggest fucking homer, bro. I will drive the horses home screaming about my team, but I'm gonna call it like it is. So hopefully we can definitely get it right, and we'll see how it goes from here. Dave Stewart saying it's funny how the room has changed. When Isaiah McKenzie and Tony Brown had a problem, it was crickets out of the locker room.
Yeah,
and now it's definitely all coming out to light. And he said this year it all comes out. I think players like DeForest Buckner and stuff like that, guys that want to actually complete for championships and are players to this team, have finally just had enough.
Sick of the bullshit. Who could blame
Absolutely. And then we had got down to some of the stuff we had in the beginning that we discussed about. Pretty much Ballard said that we got complacent after bringing players back. Then he pretty much kind of went into the history of what we did as a football team. When he first started building this team, and we had the playoff team with Andrew Luck, we had the playoff team with Phillip Rivers, and he thought those teams were kind of close. And then after we started having a little bit more issues at quarterback and them changing and stuff, we got to 9-8, and Ballard says, I pretty much got fooled on that year. Pretty much thought that, we got to 9-8. I think we can make small changes running back with guys and put faith into them. And we can probably get over the hump and get better. And we end up going 8-9. And he said guys got complacent after bringing them all back in it, and the team was not competitive enough. He said we were 8-9. And he said 8-9, we're not close. Losing the Super Bowl, that's close. 8-9, we're not close at all. That was the last one I had there. And I just think that just spoke volumes to everything that Colts Nation has been screaming to Ballard for, I probably want to say, after the Carson Wentz year.
Yeah.
We all wanted to reload. Some of us want to keep Carson Wentz, some wanted to reload, but I think we've all been screaming the same thing, that we were breached on mediocrity after losing to the, I don't know what their record was, but a garbage Raiders team, and then we lose to the 1-win Jacksonville Jaguars team, and pretty much everybody from there wanted Ballard gone, blow it up. And I think it just speaks volumes that he finally made it to the point where he could see his own mess that he's created. Yeah. Now we're at the point where we're ready to see.
Yeah, that comment to me, dude, that was the single most important comment of the presser, because to me, that was the one that showed that I can't believe I'm going to say it, but that was the one that showed that maybe it is a better thing that we kept Ballard as opposed to firing him. And everyone on the show has heard me. I would have fired Ballard the moment the Jacksonville game ended. But I took the week. I listened to the presser. I took a step back. I don't think I'm just being how fans do, like convince yourself everything's going to be good. I don't think I'm doing that. How I see it is, say we would have went that route. We would have fired the GM. We would have brought in a new guy. That's what I was calling for as well. We all know it would have been tear it all down and build it up over again to that guy's vision, and that could take years. Now, that very well may have been the right answer. What I'm seeing with Ballard is, if he can back up what he's saying here, and if he can look at this and say, I fucked this up here, I see what I fucked up, and I see what I have to do to fix it, that could be a lot quicker fix and actually get this team rolling with the guys who are on long-term deals and what have you, without necessarily tearing down the whole franchise and truly turn the team around. Now, I fully understand after 8 years of failure and no division titles and barely any playoffs, no one wants to hear that, and nor should you, because the lack of success is inexcusable. It really is. But with the comments that he made, it brought me from here to here, like you said earlier, just a little bit higher on maybe he can make this work. And he still has a lot of work to do to get me back on his side. But it was that self-awareness and that being able to look at it and say, this is where I fucked up, and this is what I need to do to make it better. Now, if he can do what he said, that does change things for me. That does change things where it might be better that we didn't just blow it all up. Yeah, I understand 8 years of losing to these guys, still believe. I'm not saying I believe in the guy. I'm saying that was a much better statement than I like our guys still. I'm saying I like to see the accountability from him, and that if he can do what he said, it would be better than just scrapping the entire team, selling it, trading everyone, and starting from the ground up. But you're welcome to disagree. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, we're an interactive show. We're just about wrapped up here, so I don't know if you maybe missed the beginning or where we said where it was. I said, hope was down here. Now it's up
just
to here.
A little higher.
It's just hearing the fact that he could finally say he's wrong. This has nothing to do with believe. I said before, all 5 of us on this show wanted Ballard fired. There's no changes we can make. So if you don't believe, that's perfectly fine for you, but can you fire Ballard? You can't. So
I
the whole point is we're fans. At the end of the day, all we can do is hope for the best. So again, this is just believing, or not even believing. This is just hearing a difference from him to say, okay, now we heard it.
Yeah. Now we have
Are you going to show it?
You'll do it. Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes.
I'm not waving the Ballard flag over here, brother.
Exactly.
He's got a lot of work to do to get me back on his side. I just appreciated the comments and I appreciated the accountability. That's what I'm trying to get at you.
Yeah, exactly. It takes a whole lot for a person to sit there, and you can
a playoff
look
win
at
would be nice.
Go look at any everyday life. I don't know if you're married or not, husband or wife, whatever. But how easy is it for somebody in your household to say I'm wrong? So it just, the whole point is that's where it was. So again, we all wanted Ballard gone. We were happy a DC has changed. And so we're looking forward to it. We'll keep this coming for you guys. We'll see how with everything goes with draft and free agency coming up here next month. Would love to be in the playoffs instead, or not next month, March for free agency and obviously draft time. Appreciate you, Paul, for coming in.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
We'll keep an eye out.
We'll see how it goes.
More DC interviews.
Yeah, y'all try and stay positive out there. I know it ain't what most of us wanted to see, but at the end of the day, let's keep being fans of our guys, Let's keep doing it. Keep rocking out, and then eventually it either Ballard fixes his shit or he gets fired, either way.
Sink or swim, baby.
All right, appreciate everybody who stuck with us for nearly 2 hours. Appreciate all of y'all. Appreciate my guy Trev. He stayed here with me all the time. Can't wait to get all the guys back. But again, appreciate all y'all who came in the comments tonight. Hope everybody had a great and safe Happy New Year's and Christmas and everything. Appreciate all you guys. Let's go Colts.
Go Colts.
Second down, he fakes the Taylor, fires over the middle, completes. Pittman